Commander Lena Vark, the last survivor of Earth's fallen military, pilots the relic warship Eclipse into Concord space to unleash vengeance for humanity's betrayal. Guided by a mysterious signal, she uncovers proof of the Concord's role in Earth's destruction, broadcasting it to shatter their lies. With her old ally Kale Rin and the Unburied, a growing resistance of exiles, Lena strikes at Concord strongholds, exposing their atrocities. Facing relentless synths and a superweapon threatening entire systems, she risks everything to protect the truth. Her war becomes a galaxy-wide uprising, rekindling Earth's memory against a crumbling empire. Stay with us to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. The stars burned cold through the cracked viewport of the Eclipse, a relic warship drifting in the silence of the outer veil. The bridge was a tomb of shadows, lit only by the faint pulse of failing consoles and the mournful hum of engines that hadn't roared in decades. No crew breathed here, no voices echoed. Only Commander Lena Vark, last of Earth's forgotten sentinels, stood at the helm, her silhouette carved against the void. The Eclipse was no sleek Imperial cruiser. It was a brute, a scarred monument of steel and vengeance, built in the final days of Earth's defiance. Its hull groaned like a beast waking from a long sleep, and Lena's breath, steady but heavy, synced with its rhythm. She was alone, not by choice but by necessity. Her crew was gone, her world was ash, and her name was a curse whispered in the galaxy's darkest corners. A signal had brought her here, flickering through a dead relay, unencrypted, raw. Earth's shadow calls. Retribution awaits. 5 words, no sender, no coordinates, just a frequency tied to a forgotten human protocol. Most would have ignored it, flagged it as a trap or a ghost. But Lena wasn't most. She was desperate, not for survival, but for purpose. Earth had fallen 30 years ago, betrayed by the Galactic Concord, abandoned by allies who'd grown fat on its ruins. The Concord had called it justice, said humanity's wars had earned its extinction. They'd lied. Lena had been there, buried in a Martian bunker, cryosleep preserving her while the skies burned. When she woke, Earth was gone, and the galaxy had moved on. But she hadn't. The Eclipse crossed into Concord space, its sensors pinging softly, like a heartbeat in the dark. The border was a lattice of drones and automated turrets, their scans locking onto the ship's signature. A synthetic voice crackled through the comms. Unidentified vessel, halt. Stayed intent or be neutralized. Lena didn't answer. She leaned back in the pilot's chair, her scarred hands resting on the controls, and let the Eclipse speak for her. The ship surged forward, no cloaking, no hesitation, its presence a deliberate wound in the Concord's order. Alarms screamed across the border network, stations lighting up, fleets scrambling. The Eclipse wasn't just a ship, it was a name, one that hadn't been spoken since the fall, when it had carved a scar through the Concord's armada in a battle no one dared remember. On the Concord's primary fortress world, Arctis Prime, Admiral Torrin Sal stared at a hollow display, his face pale as the pings multiplied. It's a relic, an aide stammered. One ship, no support. It's suicide. Torrin's voice was a whisper, heavy with dread. That's no relic. That's the Eclipse. The ship that burned the Fifth Fleet. The ship that glassed Karatha's moons. He turned, his eyes haunted. Earth didn't die. It's been waiting. The room fell silent, officers frozen, because they knew. The Concorde had built its peace on Earth's grave, but graves could open. Lena's fingers brushed a faded hollow frame on the console. A family. Her family. Earth green and alive behind them. She didn't look at it, didn't need to. The image was burned into her, like the rage that kept her moving. She wasn't here for peace, not for redemption. She was here to make the Concorde remember what it cost to betray a world. The Eclipse's weapons hummed, waking from their long sleep, and Lena whispered to the void, "Let's begin." The first strike wasn't subtle. The Eclipse unleashed a salvo of graviton warheads, their trails blazing like comets across the black. They didn't target ships or stations, they hit the Concorde's sensor arrays, the eyes of its border. The warheads detonated in silent blooms, shredding relays, blinding entire sectors. Lena had pulled the ship's targeting data from Earth's last archives, maps of Concorde weaknesses hoarded in secret vaults. The Eclipse's AI, ancient but cunning, had spent years refining those plans, running simulations in the dark. It wasn't just a machine, it was a survivor, like her, and it knew how to hunt. Chaos erupted. Concorde outposts went dark, their comms choked with static. On fringe worlds, civilians whispered of a ghost ship, a Terran warship risen from myth. Some laughed, calling it a hoax. Others prayed, remembering stories of Earth's wrath. Lena didn't care what they thought. She steered the Eclipse deeper into Concorde space, dodging patrol routes with a precision that felt like instinct. The ship was her skin now, its sensors her eyes, its guns her fists. Every move was a message. You didn't kill us all. A ping broke her focus, an encrypted signal, human protocol, impossibly old. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the comms. No one should know this code, not anymore. She opened the channel, and a voice crackled through, rough but familiar. Vark, is that you? Lena's chest tightened. She knew that voice. Kaelrin, her second-in-command during the fall, presumed dead when their outpost burned. Kael, she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her gut. How are you alive? A pause, then his answer, bitter as ash. Same as you. Buried. Forgotten. But I didn't stay down. He was on Valthor, a Concord prison world, deep in their territory. They took me after the fall, he said. Used me to crack human tech, to erase what was left. I've been feeding them lies, slowing their purges. When I saw your signal, I knew it was you. Lena's jaw clenched. I'm not here to save anyone, Kael. I'm here to burn them. His laugh was hollow. Then let me light the match. He sent a data burst, Concord troop movements, shield codes, a map to Arctis Prime's heart. It was too perfect, too convenient, but Lena didn't have time for doubt. She locked the coordinates and pushed the Eclipse forward, the stars blurring as she dove toward retribution. The Eclipse carved through Concord space like a blade through flesh, its path a trail of shattered drones and silent stations. Lena followed Kael's map, slipping through gaps in the Concord's defenses, old trade routes, abandoned mining belts, places their arrogance had left unguarded. The ship took hits, its hull groaning under missile barrages, but it held. It always held. Lena's hands moved over the controls, her mind half in the present, half in the memories that haunted her. She saw Earth's last days, cities burning, skies choking on ash, her family screams as the bombs fell. The Concorde had watched, done nothing, then scavenged the corpse. Now they'd pay. Arctis Prime loomed on the sensors, a fortress world wrapped in shields and lies. Its orbit bristled with warships, its surface a maze of bunkers and cannons. Kael's voice crackled through again. You're close, Vark. They're mobilizing everything. Sal's in the Capitol spire, running the show. Lena's lips twitched, not a smile but a predator's baring of teeth. Torrance Sal, the architect of Earth's betrayal, the man who'd signed the order to abandon her world. He's mine, she said, and Kael didn't argue. The Eclipse dropped out of warp, its arrival a shockwave that rattled Concord's orbital defenses. Cannons roared, missiles streaked, but the ship's countermeasures, ancient, brutal, turned the sky into a graveyard of fire. Lena fired back, graviton lances cutting through cruisers like paper. The Eclipse wasn't built for elegance, it was built to break, and it did. A Concord dreadnought, bold enough to close the gap, vanished in a pulse of light, its wreckage raining on the planet below. Lena didn't blink. She aimed for the spire, Sal's throne, and let the Eclipse scream. On Arctis Prime, panic choked the command center. Sal stood before a holomap, his face a mask of control, but his hands betrayed him. Trembling as reports flooded in. One ship, an officer stammered. How is this possible? Sal's voice was ice. Because it's not just a ship. It's her. He'd known Lena Vark, fought her in the Fringe Wars, seen her turn battles with nothing but will and rage. He'd thought her dead, like Earth. He'd been wrong. Lena's comm sparked again, Kael's voice urgent. They're moving civilians into the spire, Vark. Shields for Sal. Don't let him hide behind them. Lena's grip tightened on the controls. The Concord's playbook, use the innocent, twist the narrative. She could fire, level the spire, end Sal now. But the cost, children, workers, lives that didn't deserve her wrath. She redirected the lances, targeting Sal's private fortress instead, a gaudy monument to his ego. The beam hit, and the horizon burned, a wound the Concorde couldn't ignore. The Eclipse landed, not gently, its hull crushing a security outpost as it settled into the Capitol's core. Lena stepped out, armored in patched Terran gear, a plasma rifle in one hand, a thermal blade in the other. The city was chaos, sirens, smoke, civilians fleeing. She moved like a shadow, Kael's signal guiding her to the spire's underbelly. He was there, waiting, older, scarred, but unmistakably him. You look like hell, she said. He grinned, blood on his teeth. You look like war. They descended into the spire's depths, a labyrinth of steel and lies. The walls were etched with Concord propaganda, tributes to peace, unity, the cleansing of Earth's chaos. Lena's stomach churned, but she kept moving, Kael at her side, his limbs slowing him but not stopping him. Sal's in the core bunker, he said, checking a stolen scanner. Biometric lock, his blood only. Lena's eyes narrowed. Then we'll use it. Resistance came fast, Concord elites, their armor gleaming, their weapons cutting edge. Lena and Kael fought like ghosts, her rifle burning through plating, his knives finding joints and throats. The Eclipse's AI, linked to her HUD, fed her targets, its voice a cold whisper in her ear. They betrayed you. End them. She did, body after body, until the halls ran red. Kael took a hit, plasma searing his leg, but he waved her off. Keep going. I've got your back. The bunker door loomed, a slab of titanium and hubris. Lena pressed her hand to the scanner. Nothing. She planted charges, Kael covering her, his breathing ragged. The explosion tore the door apart, and they stepped through, smoke curling around them. Torrance Sal waited inside, alone, a pistol in his hand, his face calm but his eyes wild. Vark, he said, like they were old friends. You should have stayed dead. Lena's blade hummed. You should have finished the job. Sal laughed, bitter, broken. Earth was a cancer. I saved the galaxy. Lena stepped closer, her voice low. You saved yourself. He fired, the bolt grazing her arm, but she was faster, slamming him against the wall, her blade at his throat. Kale limped forward, his knife ready. End it, Vark. But Lena hesitated. Killing Sal here, in secret, was too small. She wanted more than his blood. She wanted his lie exposed. She dragged him to a console, forcing his hand onto the override panel. The Spire's broadcast system flared to life, hijacking every screen, every feed in Concord space. Lena faced the camera, Sal's bloodied face beside her. This is the truth, she said, her voice steel. The Concord betrayed Earth, left us to burn, and called it peace. This man led the lie. Now you see him. She let the galaxy watch Sal break, his defiance crumbling, his legacy ash. Then she drove the blade home. The broadcast didn't stop. The Eclipse's AI, freed by the override, flooded the Concord's networks with Earth's lost archives, proof of the betrayal, the purges, the deals that doomed a world. Planets froze, citizens staring at screens, soldiers lowering weapons. The Concord's myth of unity cracked, its leaders exposed. Lena and Kale fought their way out, the spire collapsing around them, fire and steel raining down. The Eclipse waited, wounded but defiant, its ramp open like a promise. They boarded, Kale half carried, the ship system sparking. Lena took the helm, her hands steady despite the blood on them. We're not done, Kale said, his voice weak but fierce. She nodded. The Eclipse rose, punching through the atmosphere, Concord ships too stunned to pursue. The AI's voice filled the bridge. Final command. Lena looked at Kale, then at the stars. Jump. Anywhere but here. The ship vanished, a ghost in the void. The Concorde didn't fall, not yet, but it staggered. Protests flared, worlds seceded, and Earth's name, once a curse, became a spark. Lena and Kale drifted, the Eclipse their home, their war not over, but transformed. They weren't fighting for vengeance anymore. They were fighting for memory, for a truth that could no longer be buried. The Eclipse hid in the shattered rift, a nebula of broken stars and forgotten wrecks. Its hull was scarred, its systems failing, but it held together, like Lena. She hadn't slept in days, hadn't stopped moving. Kale was recovering, his wounds bandaged, his spirit unbroken. The broadcast had changed everything. Concorde fleets were in disarray, their leaders scrambling to contain the truth. But the truth was alive now, spreading through data streams, whispered in bars, carved into walls. Lena felt it, a weight lifting, not gone but lighter. A new signal came, faint, human-coded. Not Kale's, not the Concorde's. Lena traced it to a dead colony. Eris, 7, once Earth's, now a ruin. Could be a trap, Kale warned, his voice hoarse. Lena's lips twitched. Could be hope. They jumped, the Eclipse groaning but obeying. Eris, 7 was a wasteland, its skies gray, its cities dust. But beneath the surface, in bunkers like the one that saved Lena, survivors waited. Humans, hybrids, exiles who'd never forgotten. Their leader was a woman, Mira, her eyes sharp as blades. We saw your signal, she said. We heard the truth. Lena studied her, wary but curious. And now? Myra's smile was grim. Now we fight. Not for Earth, but for what it could have been. The Eclipse became a beacon, drawing others, ships, fighters, ghosts of a lost world. Lena wasn't a leader, didn't want to be, but they looked to her, and she didn't turn away. The war wasn't loud, not at first. It was signals, sabotage, strikes in the dark. The Eclipse led raids on Concorde outposts, freeing prisoners, stealing data, spreading the truth. Kale healed, his knives sharper, his faith in Lena absolute. Myra's people grew, their network stretching across systems. The Concorde fought back, its sense relentless, its propaganda desperate. But doubt had taken root, and no fleet could kill an idea. Lena stood on the Eclipse's bridge, the stars steady now, her purpose clear. She wasn't fighting for a grave anymore. She was fighting for a future, one the Concorde couldn't steal. The Eclipse jumped again, its next target a Concorde archive, a vault of lies waiting to burn. Lena's hand rested on the hollow frame. Her family's faces faded but not forgotten. For you, she whispered, and the stars answered with silence, vast and alive. The Eclipse slipped through the shattered rift like a specter, its patched hull blending with the nebulous haze of dust and dying stars. Lena Vark stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the NAV console, where a faint signal pulsed from Eris 7's ruins. The coordinates Mira had provided led to a buried outpost, one of Earth's last, hidden beneath centuries of ash and betrayal. The ship's engines groaned, straining against the damage from Arctis Prime, but they held, driven by the same stubborn will that kept Lena alive. Kaelrin sat nearby, his leg bandaged, his knives laid out like a ritual. He didn't speak, didn't need to. The air between them was heavy with unspoken trust, forged in fire and loss. The Eclipse's AI, its voice a low hum, plotted their descent, warning of Concord patrols closing in. Lena ignored it. She'd come too far to turn back now. Eris 7 was a graveyard, its surface scarred by orbital strikes from the fall. The Eclipse landed in a crater, its thrusters kicking up clouds of gray dust that hung in the thin atmosphere like ghosts. Lena and Kale suited up, their armor patched but functional, their weapons charged. Mira met them at the ramp, her silhouette sharp against the dead horizon. Behind her, a dozen figures waited, humans. Some with cybernetic limbs, others with eyes that gleamed with biomots. Survivors, like Lena, but different, hardened by years of hiding. "You're late," Mira said, her voice dry but warm. Lena's lips twitched. "Blame the Concord. They don't like guests." The outpost was a labyrinth of tunnels, reinforced with old Terran steel, its walls etched with faded insignia of Earth's navy. Mira led them through, her step sure, her people silent but watchful. This was a fallback, she explained, her voice echoing in the dark. Built before the fall, when Earth knew the Concord was turning. Most didn't make it here. Lena's chest tightened, memories of those final days clawing at her screams. Static, the silence when the signals stopped. "Why now?" she asked. Mira glanced back, her eyes glinting. "Because of you. Your broadcast woke us. The truth's out, Vark. We're not hiding anymore." They reached a chamber, vast and cold, lit by flickering holoscreens. At its center was a console, ancient but alive, its data streams pulsing like a heartbeat. "This is what's left," Mira said, her hand brushing the controls. "Earth's archives, plans, weapons, proof of what the Concord did. We've been guarding it, waiting." Kale limped forward, his gaze sharp. "Waiting for what?" Myra's smile was a blade. "For someone to carry it." Lena felt the weight of her words, heavier than the Eclipse's hull. She wasn't just a soldier anymore, she was a spark, and Myra's people were ready to burn. The reunion was cut short by a tremor, the ground shaking as alarms blared. "Concord," Mira spat, checking a scanner. "They tracked your jump." Lena's jaw clenched. The Eclipse was a beacon, its every move a wound the Concord couldn't ignore. She turned to Kale. "Get the ship ready." He nodded, already moving, his limp barely slowing him. Myra's people armed themselves, their weapons a mix of salvaged Terran tech and stolen Concord gear. Lena followed Mira to a command post, where holomaps showed Concord dropships descending, their signatures cold and precise. "Since," Lena muttered. "They don't want prisoners." Myra's eyes met hers. "Then we don't give them any." The battle was brutal, fast. Concord synths hit the outpost like a plague, their blades flashing, their armor shrugging off plasma. Lena fought at the tunnel's mouth, her rifle burning, her thermal blade carving through synthetic flesh. Myra's people were fierce, their rage a match for the machines, but they were outnumbered. Kale's voice crackled through her comms. "Eclipse is hot. We need to move." Lena glanced at Mira, who was bleeding but unbowed, her rifle still firing. "The archives," Lena said. "We can't lose them." Mira nodded, tossing her a data cylinder. "Got a copy. Go." They fell back, the tunnels collapsing behind them, dust and fire choking the air. Lena carried the cylinder, its weight heavier than steel, its contents a map to the Concord's end. The Eclipse roared as they boarded, its ramp closing just as synths breached the crater. Kale was at the helm, his hands steady despite the pain in his eyes. "Where to?" he asked. Lena plugged the cylinder into the console, its data lighting up the NAV grid, coordinates, targets, a network of Concord weaknesses. "Somewhere they can't bury this," she said. The Eclipse jumped, the stars blurring, Eris 7 burning behind them. The Eclipse drifted in the Klein void, a stretch of space where black holes whispered and sensors failed. The ship was wounded, its port thrusters offline, its hull leaking air. Lena worked in the engine bay, her hands black with grease, her mind racing. The cylinder's data was a goldmine, locations of Concord black sites, AI hubs, even the schematics for their planetary shields. But it was also a death sentence. The Concord would hunt them to the galaxy's edge to keep this buried. Kale joined her, his leg braced, his knife sheathed but ready. "Myra's people," he said. "They're out there, spreading the word." Lena nodded, wiping her hands. "Good. We'll need them." A new signal came, faint, coded in Terran protocol. Lena traced it to a rogue station in the Telver Belt, a haven for smugglers and exiles. "Could a trap?" Kale asked, his voice wary. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Maybe, but we're out of options." The Eclipse limped to the station, its cloak barely holding. The Telvar Belt was a chaos of asteroids and derelict ships, a perfect hiding place, but a lousy battlefield. The station was a patchwork of salvaged hulls, its docks crawling with mercenaries and black market techs. Their contact, a cyborg named Vex, met them in a crowded bar, his optic glowing as he scanned the cylinder. "This is bigger than you think," he said, his voice a low rasp. "The Concord's already locking down systems. You've got a week, maybe less, before they trace you." Lena's jaw tightened. "Then we move fast." Vex's deal was simple. He'd copy the data, spread it through the Belt's networks, and give the Eclipse repairs and a new cloaking mod. In return, he wanted a cut of the chaos, access to the Concord's black sites for his own raids. Lena didn't trust him, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. While Vex's techs worked, she and Kale scouted the station, their eyes sharp for betrayal. The belt was a powder keg, its people hungry for a fight, but loyal to no one. Lena felt the cylinder's weight in her pocket, its data a bomb waiting to detonate. The ambush came at midnight, station time. Concord synths stormed the docks, their stealth cloaks failing in the belt's chaotic EM fields. Lena and Kale fought their way to the Eclipse, Vex's betrayal clear in the bodies of his own men, cut down to cover his escape. The station burned, its markets collapsing as civilians fled. Lena's rifle was molten by the time they reached the ship, Kale dragging a wounded leg, his knives slick with synthetic blood. The Eclipse launched, its new cloak flickering but holding, the belt a firestorm behind them. Vex got the data, Kale said, his voice grim. Lena nodded, her hands steady on the controls. Then we make sure it spreads. The Eclipse hid in the shadow of a gas giant, its rings a veil against Concord scans. Lena pored over the cylinder's data, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. The archives detailed the Concord sins, experiments on human colonies, purges of dissident worlds, AI-driven genocides masked as accidents. But they also held hope, locations of other Terran bunkers, scattered across the galaxy, waiting to be woken. Kale watched her, his silence heavy. You're planning something stupid, he said finally. Lena's lips twitched. Stupid's all we've got. Her plan was a broadcast, not just to the belt, but to every system, every screen, every mind. The Eclipse's AI could amplify the signal, hijack Concord relays, make the truth unstoppable. But it needed a hub, a central node to bypass their firewalls. The data pointed to one, Nexus 9, a Concord AI fortress orbiting a dead star. It was suicide, defended by fleets, shielded by tech that could fry the Eclipse in seconds. But it was the only way. We hit Nexus 9, Lena said, her voice steel. We burned their lies to the ground. Kale didn't argue. He just sharpened his knives. They rallied Myra's network, now calling themselves the Unburied. Ships gathered in the gas giant's shadow, scavenged fighters, patched freighters, even a rogue Concord corvette stolen by defectors. Mira joined them via Hollow, her face gaunt but fierce. We're ready, she said. But Nexus 9's a slaughterhouse. You sure? Lena met her gaze. I'm sure. The Unburied weren't an army, not yet, but they were angry, and anger was enough. The Eclipse led the charge, its cloak holding as they jumped to Nexus 9's system, the dead star's glow a cold warning. The battle was chaos. Concord fleets met them in orbit, their cruisers dwarfing the Unburied's ragtag flotilla. The Eclipse danced through the fire, Lena's piloting surgical, her lances carving holes in enemy hulls. Myra's ships drew attention, their sacrifice buying time. Lena and Kale boarded Nexus 9, their suits patched, their weapons hot. The station was a maze of sterile halls and humming AI cores, its synths relentless. They fought through, Lena's rifle overheating, Kale's knives a blur, until they reached the central hub, a chamber of light and code, its AI a sentient storm. Lena plugged in the cylinder, and the Eclipse's AI went to war. The hub's defenses screamed, code lashing like a living thing, but the Terran AI was older, hungrier. It tore through, broadcasting the archives, every sin, every lie, every scream across the galaxy. Planets stopped, fleets hesitated, and the Concord's myth of peace shattered. Lena and Kale barely escaped, the hub collapsing, their suits breached, their blood mixing with the station's ash. The Eclipse caught them, its ramp a lifeline, and they jumped, Nexus 9 a dying star behind them. The broadcast was a wildfire. Concord worlds erupted, riots in their capitals, defections in their fleets, archives opened by hackers and exiles. The Unburied grew, their ships now a fleet, their name a rallying cry. The Eclipse drifted in the outer reach, its repairs makeshift, its crew, Lena, Kale, and a handful of Myra's best, exhausted but unbroken. Lena stood at the viewport, the cylinder dark now, its data free. The Concord wasn't dead, but it was bleeding, its leaders exposed, its power fraying. A new signal came, Terran-coded, from a bunker on Kryn 4, another lost colony. Lena traced it, her heart heavy. Another trap? Kale asked, his voice rough. Lena shook her head. Another chance. The Eclipse jumped, Kryn, for a frozen world of ice and secrets. The bunker was intact, its occupants a mix of humans and hybrids, their leader a scientist named Terran, her eyes glowing with neural implants. We've been waiting, she said, her voice soft but fierce. Your broadcast reached us. We're ready to fight. Lena studied her, seeing her own rage mirrored back. Then let's fight. The bunker held weapons, Terran prototypes, banned by the Concord, capable of cracking shields and melting hulls. Terran's people joined the Unburied, their tech a game changer. Lena felt the tide turning, not to victory but to possibility. The Eclipse became a hub, coordinating strikes, spreading the truth. Kale trained recruits, his knives a lesson in survival. Myra's fleet hit Concord supply lines, starving their fortresses. Lena planned the next move, a strike on Arctis Prime's secondary hub, a data vault that could cripple their command structure. The war grew louder, no longer shadows but open battles. The Eclipse led a raid on the vault, its cloaking now stable, its lances sharper with Terran's upgrades. Lena fought on the ground, her blade a storm, Kale at her side, their synergy lethal. The vault fell, its data, orders, plans, proof of ongoing purges, sent to every system. The Concord retaliated, their synths smarter, their fleets desperate. The Eclipse took hits, its hull buckling, but it held, a symbol of defiance. Lena stood in the wreckage, blood on her face, the stars burning behind her. "We're not done," she said, and Kale nodded, his knives ready. The Unburied's momentum grew, their raids at drumbeat the Concord couldn't silence. The Eclipse was their heart, its bridge a war room where Lena, Kale, Mira, and Terran planned the endgame. The Concord's core worlds were cracking, citizens defecting, soldiers abandoning posts, leaders fleeing to bunkers. But the enemy wasn't broken. A new signal warned of a counterstrike, a Concord superweapon, codenamed Oblivion, designed to erase entire systems. Its location was Valthor, the prison world where Kale had been held. Lena didn't hesitate. "We at Valthor. We end this." The Eclipse led the Unburied's full fleet, a patchwork armada of fury and hope. Valthor was a fortress, its skies thick with drones, its surface a maze of camps and labs. The Oblivion was a planetary cannon, its core buried deep, guarded by an AI that rivaled the Eclipse's. Lena landed with Kale, Mira, and Terran, their team a blade aimed at the weapon's heart. The battle was hell, synths swarmed, drones screamed, and the AI fought with code and steel. They reached the core, a chamber of light and death, the Oblivion's cannon charging, its target the Unburied's home systems. Lena faced the AI, her cylinder linked to the Eclipse's systems, Terran's tech amplifying its power. The AI was a god, its voice shaking the chamber. "You cannot unmake order," it said. Lena's eyes burned. "Watch us." The Eclipse's AI struck, a digital titan, tearing through the Oblivion's defenses. Lena and Terran shut down the cannon, Kale and Mira holding the line, their blood painting the floor. The chamber collapsed, the Oblivion silent, Valthor a tomb. The Eclipse barely escaped, its hull breached, its crew battered. The Unburied won, but the cost was heavy. Mira wounded, half their ships gone. Lena stood on the bridge, the stars quiet, her hands trembling. "We stopped it," Kale said, his voice raw. Lena nodded, but her eyes were on the horizon. "They'll try again." The Concord was wounded, but not dead. The war wasn't over, but it was theirs now, a fight for truth, for memory, for a galaxy that remembered Earth. The Eclipse drifted in the void, its repairs ongoing, its crew a family forged in fire. Lena stood at the helm, the cylinder a relic now, its data the galaxies. The Unburied were a movement, their ships a fleet, their name a promise. Concord worlds fell, one by one, not to conquest, but to truth, their people waking, their lies exposed. Lena planned the next strike, a final blow to Arctis Prime's heart, a broadcast to end the Concord's reign. Kale sharpened his knives, Mira healed, Terran built. The stars waited, and Lena Vark, last of Earth's sentinels, carried the reckoning forward, her war a song the galaxy would never forget.